I never imagined I'd feel this way at 27, like I'm constantly swimming against a current that never lets up. It's like I'm trapped in this endless cycle where the bills keep piling up, the rent goes higher every year, and my paycheck somehow feels smaller with each passing month. I work full-time, sometimes overtime, but it's never enough. Every day feels like a balancing act on a tightrope, and one wrong step means everything could come crashing down. When I graduated college, I was full of hope and excitement. I had dreams about buying a small apartment, maybe traveling once in a while, or at least having enough money to eat out with friends without feeling guilty. But those dreams started slipping away as soon as the first rent check left my bank account. Rent is like this monster, no matter how much I make, it just swallows everything whole. Utilities, groceries, transportation, phone bills, they all add up, and then there's student loans, which hover over me like a dark cloud I can't shake. I remember the first time I realized how tight things were getting. I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of cheap coffee, a pile of unopened bills staring back at me. The anxiety hit like a wave. Should I pay the credit card minimum this month or put that money toward groceries? If I buy gas to get to work, how will I afford the groceries? It's this constant, exhausting mental math that never stops. My friends invite me out, and I want to say yes, but then I think about the cost, the $10 for a drink, the $15 for a meal, and I just can't. I feel like I'm missing out, but also like I'm drowning in this invisible pressure. What hurts the most is how this constant stress wears on me emotionally. It's not just about money, it's about what that money represents: security, freedom, choice. I often lie awake at night, heart pounding, wondering how I got here. Sometimes I feel ashamed, like I'm not doing enough or that I've failed somehow, even though I know it's not my fault. The system feels rigged, built for people who already have a leg up. The cost of living keeps rising, but wages barely budge. It's a race I can't win. Coping has become a survival skill. I've had to learn to live with less, sometimes sacrificing my own needs just to keep everything afloat. I cut back on things that once brought me joy: a new book, a haircut, even seeing a therapist. I've started cooking at home almost every night, which is healthier but also a necessity because eating out is a luxury I can't afford. I shop sales, use coupons, and avoid unnecessary purchases like they're traps. There's a constant mental checklist before I spend a single dollar. Sometimes I catch myself daydreaming about the life I want, owning a place that's truly mine, where I don't have to worry about rent increases or noisy neighbors. Having a steady emergency fund so that an unexpected car repair or medical bill doesn't throw me into panic mode. Maybe even taking a trip somewhere beautiful, far away from this relentless pressure, to just breathe and feel free. But then reality snaps back, and those dreams feel distant, almost like a cruel joke. It's hard to admit, but there have been moments when I've felt hopeless. Like, what's the point if I'm just going to be stuck in this loop forever? But I try to hold on to the small victories: the paycheck that covers everything this month, the extra shift that gives me a little cushion, the quiet moments where I remind myself that I'm doing the best I can. I talk to friends who understand, even if they're going through their own struggles, and sometimes just sharing the weight makes it bearable. I don't want to be defined by this pressure or feel like I'm a victim. I want to believe there's a way out, that with time and maybe some luck, I can break free. For now, I'm trying to be patient with myself, acknowledging that this is hard and that it's okay to feel overwhelmed. I'm still holding on to hope, even if it feels fragile. Because at the end of the day, that hope is what keeps me going. It's the reason I keep showing up, keep working, keep dreaming, even if those dreams have to wait a little longer. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never imagined that money would feel like a cage, tight, unyielding, and impossible to slip out of. But here I am, at 27, stuck in a loop where every dollar I make seems to vanish before I can even breathe. The weight of ongoing financial pressure is like a quiet storm that crashes through every corner of my life, shaping my choices, clouding my emotions, and whispering doubts about what the future could hold. Growing up, I didn't think much about money. My parents managed to get by, always making it work, and they never let me see the stress beneath the surface. College felt like an adventure, a chance to chase dreams, to step into a world where I could be free. But reality hit hard the moment I graduated. The job market was brutal, paychecks barely covering rent, utilities, groceries, and the ever-mounting student loans. Suddenly, the money I thought I'd earn wasn't enough to live, let alone save or plan. Every morning, I wake up calculating, sometimes unconsciously, sometimes obsessively, what I can afford today. Can I skip lunch to save $5? Is it better to take the bus or risk walking and being late? The gas in my car feels like liquid gold. I look at my phone, tracking every transaction, each one a tiny cut to my already fragile budget. My income seems to creep up just a fraction, maybe a few dollars every few months, but expenses swell with the ferocity of a tidal wave: rent hikes, grocery prices, insurance premiums. It's like the system is designed to push me down, to keep me just barely afloat. It's exhausting. More than that, it's heartbreaking. There are nights when I lie awake, heart pounding, imagining what life would be like if money weren't the barrier. Could I finally travel like I always dreamed? Would I be able to save enough to buy a small place, a little sanctuary I could call my own? Could I even think about starting a family without this constant shadow of debt? These thoughts sometimes feel like a cruel joke, hopes that tease me but remain out of reach. The pressure isn't just financial, it's deeply emotional. I catch myself shrinking in social situations because going out means spending, and spending means less security. Friends talk about weekend trips, new gadgets, dinners out, and I nod, smiling, but inside, it feels like a reminder of everything I can't have. The fear of judgment, of being seen as not successful or not responsible, weighs heavily. I've had to become incredibly careful about sharing my struggles, because vulnerability often gets met with pity or unsolicited advice. Coping takes all kinds of shapes. I've learned to celebrate the smallest victories, finding a deal on groceries, getting through a month without overdrafting, turning down the thermostat a degree or two. I lean on routines that don't cost much: morning runs, long walks with a podcast, cooking simple meals at home. These moments give me a sliver of control, a way to reclaim something in a life that often feels dictated by external pressures. But it's a fragile coping strategy. There are days when the anxiety floods in, a suffocating wave that makes it hard to breathe, let alone plan ahead. My mental health sometimes takes a hit, and I struggle to hold on to optimism. The world seems to move faster than I can keep up, and the gap between where I am and where I want to be grows wider. It's a slow grind, and every step forward feels tentative. I think about the dreams I've had to postpone. Buying a home feels like a fantasy for now, a line I've erased from my near-term plans. Starting a family, a conversation that once felt exciting, now stirs anxiety about the financial reality of childcare, healthcare, and stability. Even investing in myself, classes, certifications, or hobbies, feels like a luxury I can't afford. Sometimes I feel like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up, and no matter how hard I push, I'm stuck in place. Despite it all, I hold on to hope, maybe because hope is all I have left sometimes. I dream of a day when I can breathe easier, when my paycheck stretches beyond just survival. When I can save enough to take a trip, to visit places I've only seen in photos, to sit at a cafe without watching the clock or the price tags. I dream of financial freedom, yes, but more than that, I dream of peace, the peace that comes with knowing I'm not constantly fighting just to stay afloat. It's an ongoing battle, this dance with money and survival. But telling this story, letting it out, helps a little. Maybe it's a reminder that I'm not alone, that others feel trapped too, and maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to build something better, together. For now, I keep going, cautious, tired, but still holding on to the flicker of what could be. It's hard to explain exactly what it feels like to be trapped in a cycle where the cost of living climbs relentlessly, but your paycheck barely moves, if it moves at all. I'm 26, and every day feels like a balancing act on a fraying tightrope. I wake up, check my bank account, and the numbers don't lie. I'm behind before the day even begins. I graduated college 4 years ago with a decent degree, full of hope and ambition. Back then, I imagined my life would be a steady climb, getting promotions, saving money, maybe even buying a little place of my own before I turned 30. But the reality hit like a cold wave. Rent keeps going up, groceries cost more, utilities spike every winter, and then there's always the unexpected, a broken phone, a car repair, or a medical bill. Every month, I watch my paycheck stretch thinner and thinner, trying to cover necessities with what's left, and there's never much left. I live in a small, cramped apartment, the kind with peeling paint and noisy neighbors, because anything else is out of reach. I don't eat out anymore, it's become a luxury I can't afford. I clip coupons, hunt sales, and meal prep like my life depends on it, because it does. Sometimes, I find myself staring at the ceiling late at night, wondering how so many people seem to get ahead while I'm stuck running in place, like I'm spinning my wheels in mud. The hardest part isn't just the money, it's how it affects me emotionally. I feel tired all the time, like I'm carrying a weight no one else sees. There's this constant, low-level anxiety that never quite goes away, gnawing at the back of my mind. Am I doing enough? Should I be hustling more? But no matter how hard I work, the numbers don't add up. Sometimes, it's humiliating, feeling like I'm failing at being an adult. The bills pile up, and I worry about being that person who calls their parents for help every month. I want to be independent. I want to be proud of what I built. I cope by holding on to little things, a good book, a walk in the park, catching up with friends when I can afford it. I try to remind myself that my worth isn't just in my bank account. But it's hard not to let the financial pressure seep into every part of my life. I've had to postpone dreams that once felt so close, traveling to new places, going back to school, even saving for a down payment on a house. I tell myself these things aren't gone forever, just delayed, but sometimes it feels like they're slipping further away with every rent increase. I watch the news, and it's discouraging. Stories about inflation, rising interest rates, and stagnant wages fill my feed. It feels like the system is stacked against people like me. Those with resources keep getting richer, while those of us scraping by get squeezed tighter. It's not just about me, it's about a whole generation caught in the same trap. The economy isn't just numbers on a screen, it's the pulse that dictates what kind of life I can live. Yet, despite it all, I hold on to hope. Hope that one day, the hard work will pay off. That maybe, somehow, I'll break free from this cycle. I dream of waking up without the pit of worry in my stomach, of having the freedom to make choices without counting every penny. I dream of a future where I can say yes to opportunities without hesitation, whether that's a new job, moving to a better place, or just taking a deep breath and relaxing. For now, I keep going, day by day, paycheck by paycheck, holding on to those small moments of joy and the belief that things can change. Because what else can I do? Giving up isn't an option, even if the system feels designed to keep me down. Maybe one day, the numbers will finally work in my favor. Until then, I'll keep fighting, trying to carve out a life worth living, no matter how tough it gets. I never thought I'd feel this way in my mid-20s, like I'm sinking, slow and steady, in quicksand that I can't pull myself out of. It's strange, because when I was a teenager, I imagined this stage of life as full of possibilities. I'd be working, earning, saving for a place of my own, maybe traveling a bit, and figuring out who I wanted to be. But the reality now? It feels like I'm running on a treadmill set to a speed I can't control, and no matter how fast I run, I'm stuck in the same spot, or worse, slowly sliding backward. Every day, I'm faced with the pressure of money, the kind that creeps in quietly but becomes loud in your chest. Rent has gone up twice in the last year, the grocery bills keep ballooning, and even the little things like my phone plan or internet feel like weights around my neck. I make a decent salary for my age, but it's not keeping pace with the rising costs. I feel like I'm constantly juggling. Do I pay an extra $50 to cover my car insurance this month, or do I try to scrape by with less food? Do I buy medication I need, or put it off until next paycheck? The answers aren't clear, and there's no margin for error. It's exhausting, this balancing act. Some mornings I wake up feeling this pit in my stomach, the anxiety buzzing before I even open my eyes. I try to remind myself that everyone struggles, that these are just temporary setbacks, but the weight of it presses down hard. I watch my friends talk about weekend trips, new clothes, or dinners out, and I can't help but feel a sting of envy mixed with shame. I want to celebrate their good news and successes, but it's tough when you're quietly drowning in your own worries. The worst part is the feeling of being trapped. I'm trapped in a system where my income doesn't grow nearly as fast as my expenses, where every raise feels like a drop in the ocean, and every unexpected bill feels like a punch to the gut. I can't remember the last time I felt truly free with money. Even saving feels impossible. I keep hearing about building an emergency fund or investing for the future, but how? When there's barely anything left after paying bills? Sometimes, I sit and think about the dreams I used to have, the ones that feel so far away now. I wanted to study abroad for a semester, explore a new culture and language. I wanted to move into a little apartment that felt like mine, decorated how I liked, filled with books and plants. I dreamed about buying a car that didn't constantly break down or relying on public transport in bad weather. All these things feel like luxury items on someone else's wish list. I've had to postpone or completely let go of those dreams because the immediate needs consume every cent and ounce of energy I have. At work, I try to stay focused and put on a brave face, but sometimes the stress leaks out in ways I don't want. My mind wanders to bills unpaid or looming deadlines at the same time I'm supposed to be solving problems or collaborating on projects. I feel embarrassed to admit how much this financial pressure affects me because, on paper, I'm doing fine. But it's the unseen, the daily small decisions, whether to buy a meal or skip it, to repair my laptop or wait until it finally dies, that chip away at my confidence and sense of stability. To cope, I've had to develop some habits that help me get through the day. I track every penny I spend, no matter how small, because if I don't, it feels like the money just disappears into thin air. I've learned to cook simple meals in bulk, which saves both time and money, and I avoid social events that require spending. Sometimes I use free mental health resources online to manage the anxiety because therapy isn't affordable right now. I lean on close friends who understand, even though it's hard to open up without feeling like a burden. Despite all this, I still hold on to hope, even if it feels fragile. I hope for a day when I don't have to count every dollar, when I can save for something bigger than the next month's rent. I hope to find work that not only pays better but feels meaningful and sustainable. I hope to one day travel, not as a rare treat but as a normal part of my life. And maybe most of all, I hope to break free from this cycle, to build a life where I'm not constantly worried about money but can focus on growing, learning, and enjoying the little moments without fear. I don't have all the answers, and some days I feel overwhelmed by how unfair it all is. But sharing this story, this real, vulnerable part of me, is my way of holding on. I'm trying to believe that even in this pressure cooker of rising costs and stagnant wages, there is a way forward. A way to breathe, to dream, and maybe one day, to finally feel free. Some mornings I wake up with a weight on my chest so heavy, it feels like a second gravity. Not anxiety exactly, though that's there too, but something deeper, a dull ache of inevitability. The feeling that no matter what I do, I'm running in place while the world asks for more. I'm 27. I work 2 jobs. Neither of them are what I went to school for, but they pay just enough to keep the lights on and the fridge from going empty. I studied media production, graduated with honors, even, but you'd be surprised how quickly idealism folds when rent's due and your inbox is full of we've decided to move forward with other candidates. My days usually start around 6:45 a.m. I get dressed in the dim half-light of my apartment, careful not to wake my roommate, Maya. We split a 1-bedroom in a building that hasn't seen a proper repair in a decade, but it's cheaper than anything else within an hour of the city. I sleep on a fold-out in the living room. It's not comfortable, but I've learned to numb myself to the small discomforts, like my back hurting in the morning or having nowhere to sit that isn't also my bed. I take the bus to my first job, which is at a call center for a tech company. I clock in at 8 a.m. and spend most of the day repeating the same apologies to frustrated customers while a manager hovers just close enough to remind me I'm replaceable. Breaks are timed to the minute. Lunch is 27 minutes long, not 30. If you come back late, they dock your hours. I get off at 4 p.m., just enough time to grab a coffee before heading to my second job, a barista gig that runs from 5 p.m. to 10. I get home a little after 11, too wired to sleep and too tired to do anything else. I used to paint. That was the dream when I was a kid, becoming an artist, showing work in galleries, maybe even teaching someday. I still have the supplies, tucked in a bin under the couch bed, but I haven't touched them in months. Every time I think about painting, I feel guilty. Like I'm wasting time that could be spent on a side hustle or researching certification programs that might land me a better job. Art feels like a luxury now, something reserved for people who have the time and money to explore themselves. My phone buzzes constantly with bills. The student loan payment alone takes up nearly 20% of my monthly income. I've deferred it as many times as I could, but the interest piles up like mold. Credit card debt isn't far behind. I rarely use the card anymore, but it doesn't seem to matter. Interest is a patient predator. It waits. Grocery shopping has become a strategic operation. I memorize prices like someone studying for an exam. Which store has milk for $0.30 cheaper? Which bread lasts the longest? I eat a lot of rice and beans. Fresh vegetables are a rare indulgence. Once a week, if I'm lucky, I buy myself a single avocado or a small container of strawberries. I stretch meals out, learn to be okay with being a little hungry. Dating? That's another planet. I've had apps on my phone for a while, but I always end up deleting them. What would I even say? Hi, I'm emotionally drained, mildly depressed, and I'm afraid of the future. Want to grab a $6 coffee I probably can't afford? There's no room in my life for romance when I can barely afford my own existence. And yet, I keep going. Because what's the alternative? Sometimes, when I'm waiting for the bus or standing behind the espresso machine, I fantasize about disappearing. Not dying, just vanishing for a little while. Going off-grid, out into the woods, living off canned beans and sunlight. Just to be free from the constant buzz of bills and expectations. To live without the sharp edges of capitalism digging into my skin. But then I remember I have no savings, no car, no real backup plan. I am stitched into this system like a seam. If I pull away, everything unravels. I try to cope in small ways. I listen to music while I clean. I send voice notes to old college friends, even if they don't reply for weeks. On my one day off, I walk around the city, sometimes for hours, letting myself imagine I belong in the nicer neighborhoods I pass. I stare at the people in cafes with laptops and lattes and wonder if they know how lucky they are. Or maybe they're just better at hiding it than I am. I dream about having a home with a door that locks properly, a bathroom with a fan, a window that opens without sticking. I dream about calling my mom and telling her I'm okay, that she doesn't have to worry. That I finally made it. But mostly, I dream about rest. Not just sleep, but real rest. The kind where your shoulders aren't tense all the time, where you're not calculating your bank balance while trying to fall asleep. Where you can breathe and not feel guilty about it. I know I'm not the only one. I see it in the eyes of my coworkers, in the way Maya counts coins before paying her half of the internet bill. We're all just trying to hold it together, patching leaks in a boat that keeps taking on water. We tell ourselves it'll get better. That hard work pays off. That if we just keep pushing, something will give. I don't know if I believe that anymore. But I keep showing up anyway. Because maybe one day I'll wake up and the weight on my chest will be lighter. Maybe I'll paint again. Maybe I'll find something that feels like a future. And until then, I just keep going. One foot in front of the other. One shift, one bill, one dream postponed at a time. I used to think that if I worked hard enough, kept my head down, and made the smart choices, things would eventually fall into place. That was the script I inherited, anyway: graduate college, find a job, get a place, slowly build a life. What no one told me was that the script had changed, or maybe it had been a lie all along. I'm 27 now, and I can't remember the last time I didn't feel like I was running on fumes. Financially, emotionally, physically. It's not that I don't work, I do. 2 jobs, sometimes gig work on weekends. I've done food delivery, freelance writing, customer support from home, tutoring. My main job is in marketing at a mid-sized company. It pays okay, but not enough to cover all the basics without side hustles. Rent eats up over half my paycheck. I live in a studio apartment that smells like old paint and cigarette smoke from the last tenant. It's not unsafe, but it's not the kind of place you'd bring your parents to if you wanted to convince them you were doing well. I don't go out much, can't afford to. I make coffee at home, meal prep on Sundays, and buy groceries with military precision. It's all calculated: how many meals can I make from this one bag of rice? Can I stretch this $20 until Friday? What can I cut this month? Streaming, gym, toothpaste that doesn't burn my mouth. Sometimes I laugh at how ridiculous it gets. Like, I'll be standing in the pharmacy, comparing 2 brands of allergy meds, trying to decide whether my next breath is worth the extra $3. And then I remember I have a college degree and did everything I was supposed to do. The laughter turns into something else: tightness in my chest, a kind of slow panic that's almost become a friend by now. People talk about budgeting like it's a solution, but budgeting doesn't fix a system where costs outpace earnings. My health insurance premiums went up this year. Rent went up. Groceries, gas, internet. Everything. My salary didn't. Every raise I've gotten has felt like adding a teaspoon of water to a burning house. The worst part is the constant background noise of guilt. Like I should be doing more. I scroll past people on LinkedIn announcing new jobs, promotions, moves to better cities. I try to be happy for them. But deep down, I feel like I missed a train I didn't even know I was supposed to be on. I had dreams once. Real ones. I wanted to travel, see Japan in cherry blossom season, hike in Iceland, eat street food in Bangkok. I used to imagine getting a master's degree in psychology, maybe becoming a counselor for teens, helping people the way I wish someone had helped me when I was younger. I wanted to write a book, still do, but even writing feels like a luxury now. By the time I'm done with work and chores and errands, I don't have the mental space to create. My dreams feel like postcards from a country I can't afford to visit. Dating is another thing I've mostly put on hold. Not because I don't want to fall in love, I do, but how do you go on a date when your bank account is at $14? How do you explain to someone that you might not be able to split the check because payday is still 3 days away and you miscalculated how much your electric bill would be? I've tried. It didn't go well. There are nights I lie in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if this is just it. If life is just a long grind of paying bills and hoping nothing unexpected happens. A flat tire. A dental emergency. Anything unplanned could completely derail me. I have no safety net. No savings to speak of. Just a credit card with a limit that feels more like a trap than a lifeline. But I cope. You kind of have to. Some days I find solace in the smallest things: a podcast that makes me laugh, a cup of tea, finishing a book, talking to my sister on the phone. She's 23, still in school, and she gets it in ways most people don't. We vent, we joke, we dream together. Sometimes she tells me I'm doing great, and even if I don't believe it, I hold on to her words like a life raft. I've learned to take joy in little rituals. Sunday evenings with candles lit and music on low. Long walks when the weather is good. Thrift store treasures. A home-cooked meal that actually turns out right. These tiny things help me remember I'm still a person, not just a worker bee trying to survive capitalism. And I journal. A lot. It's the one space where I can be completely honest without worrying about being judged. In those pages, I pour out everything: the anger, the exhaustion, the quiet hopes I don't say out loud. I still hope. That's the wild part. In spite of everything, some part of me still imagines a different life. Not a rich life. Just a stable one. A life where I don't panic when I check my bank account. Where I can take a weekend trip without guilt. Maybe even buy a couch that's not secondhand someday. I'm not ungrateful, I know there are people struggling more than I am. But that doesn't mean this isn't hard. It is. It's hard to keep showing up every day, knowing that no matter how hard you work, the ground keeps shifting under your feet. It's hard to stay hopeful when it feels like the system wasn't built for people like me to thrive, just to endure. Still, I get up. I work. I try. Because what else can I do? I don't know how this story ends, but I'm still here, still writing it, one day at a time. Some days I feel like I'm standing at the bottom of a well, yelling up at a world that keeps moving without me. Everything echoes, my doubts, my fears, my hopes, even my laughter, when I can find it. The air down here is tight. Not enough to suffocate, but just enough to make breathing feel like work. I'm 27, working full-time at a nonprofit in the city. I believed in the mission when I started, hell, I still do, but there's a difference between passion and survival. I make $41,000 a year before taxes. After rent, student loan payments, transportation, groceries, and utilities, there's barely enough left to have a life, let alone build one. Rent alone eats up over half my paycheck. I share a 2-bedroom with a friend from college. We've lived together for 4 years now, mostly because we can't afford not to. The apartment's fine, tiny, always a little too cold or too hot depending on the season, but it's home. The thought of moving out and living alone feels about as realistic as a vacation in Greece. Every day feels like a trade-off. Should I buy vegetables or settle for ramen again? Can I take the bus this week or do I need to walk just to stretch the gas in my tank? I haven't been to a dentist in 3 years. My glasses are scratched. My laptop is dying, but there's no backup plan, just a prayer that it lasts another few months. Some nights, I lie awake worrying about a single unexpected expense. A car breakdown. A medical emergency. Even a parking ticket could derail my budget. There's no cushion, no savings. Just this constant edge of cliff feeling that I'm always one misstep from tumbling into a dead hole I won't be able to climb out of. The economy, they say, is recovering. Inflation's down, unemployment's steady. But those numbers feel like lies told to make the people in charge feel better. I don't see recovery. I see my rent go up $150 in 1 year. I see eggs costing twice what they did 3 years ago. I see my paycheck staying exactly the same. I remember being 21 and thinking I'd have it all figured out by now. Back then, I dreamed of getting a master's degree, maybe starting my own small creative business. I wanted to travel. To write a book. To live in a studio apartment with plants in every corner and a cat named Ghost. Now, I flinch at even imagining those things. It hurts too much to dream of something so far from reach. My friends are in the same boat. We joke about it, laugh through our shared brokenness. We're in our broke era, we say, smiling with tired eyes. One of them moved back in with their parents. Another drives Uber after work just to make ends meet. We support each other the best we can. Sometimes that means splitting a pizza and venting on a Friday night. Sometimes it means lending $40 until payday. We hold each other up because no one else will. I cope in little ways. I write in a journal most nights, just to hear myself think. I take long walks to clear my head. I volunteer at a local animal shelter on weekends, which sounds noble but is mostly selfish. I need the comfort of something soft and unconditionally loving. I try not to check my bank account more than once a day. I've learned to savor cheap joys, library books, $1 coffee refills, playlists I curate like soundtracks to a life that feels more romantic than real. My parents don't really understand. They came of age in a different world, one where college cost less than a car, and a single income could support a family. They're supportive in theory, but there's an invisible pressure in their voices when they ask, "Any plans for grad school?" or "Are you dating anyone serious?" They don't say it outright, but I can feel the quiet disappointment that their kid hasn't figured it out yet. I try not to let shame creep in, but it does. When I'm invited to a wedding and have to decline because I can't afford the flight. When I tell my boss I can't attend an out-of-state conference because the per diem doesn't cover upfront costs. When I'm 27 and still counting quarters for laundry. It's hard not to internalize it all, to feel like somehow I've failed. And yet, I'm not lazy. I work hard. I show up. I do my best. It's just that the math doesn't work. Expenses rise, wages don't. I'm stuck in this impossible equation, where effort and intention aren't enough to buy stability. What scares me most isn't the struggle, it's the feeling that this might just be it. That maybe adulthood is just a constant negotiation between hope and despair. That the system is working exactly as it was designed to, keep people like me just functional enough to keep going, but never comfortable enough to stop and question it all. Still, there are moments, fleeting ones, where I feel something like possibility. Like when a friend gets a raise. Or I find a book at the library that makes me believe in beauty again. Or someone on the train compliments my outfit and I feel, for a second, seen. I don't know what the future holds. I've let go of timelines, of expectations. I've had to. But I haven't let go of wanting more. Not just for me, for all of us stuck in the churn. I want a world where you don't have to choose between heating and eating. Where dreaming doesn't feel like an act of rebellion. Where effort meets opportunity instead of exhaustion. Maybe that makes me naive. Or maybe it just means I'm still alive. I used to believe that if you worked hard, things would eventually make sense. That was the rule growing up, right? Study, get into college, land a job, and climb from there. Nobody warned me what it feels like when you do everything right and still end up drowning. I'm 27. I work full-time as a customer service rep for a tech company that prides itself on being cutting-edge and people-first, but I make just enough to cover rent, groceries, and minimum payments on my loans. Every month, it feels like I'm playing financial Tetris, shifting bills, dodging overdrafts, pushing back payments, hoping no surprise costs hit me before my next paycheck. Rent for my one-bedroom went up again this year. It's not a fancy place, peeling paint in the bathroom, a radiator that knocks like it's haunted, but it's close enough to work, and the neighborhood feels safe enough to walk home after dark. I used to dream about moving to a city with more art, more energy, more opportunity. But now, moving feels like a luxury. I can't even afford the moving truck, let alone a deposit and first month's rent elsewhere. Groceries are another quiet battle. I've memorized where to find the discounted produce at the back of the store. I bulk buy canned beans, rice, and pasta when they're on sale. Fresh meat? Rarely. I've learned the exact hours when certain items get marked down. I used to love cooking. Now it feels more like survival math than a creative outlet. Eating healthy? Laughable. Every food decision is filtered through a mental calculator. Will this meal stretch to lunch tomorrow? Can I skip dinner Thursday if I eat late on Wednesday? And then there are the student loans. God. Every month, hundreds of dollars go toward a degree I'm not even using anymore. I studied communications, dreaming of working in media, maybe in public radio or publishing. But after graduation, all I found were unpaid internships and temp gigs. The tech job came through a friend, and I took it just for now, thinking I'd pivot once I was financially stable. That was 4 years ago. It's not just about money. It's the way the pressure seeps into everything. I feel it when I'm invited to a friend's birthday dinner and pretend I'm busy because I can't afford to split a $40 tab. I feel it when my phone buzzes with another final notice from the power company. I feel it when my coworker talks about their vacation plans, and I nod politely, trying not to let my face betray how far away that kind of freedom feels. Social media is a daily test of my ability to not spiral. Everyone else seems to be thriving: new apartments, wedding photos, career wins, international trips. I know people only post their highlights, but still, the comparison creeps in. It's not envy, exactly. It's more like shame. Like I'm stuck in place, and the world is sprinting ahead without me. Emotionally, it's a kind of numbness. Not the dramatic kind you see in movies, but a quiet, chronic fatigue. Some days I sit on the floor of my apartment, staring at the wall, too tired to cry but too overwhelmed to move. I've started meditating with a free app, and I journal when I can. Those tiny things help. They don't fix anything, but they help. My dreams haven't died, they're just quieter now. I used to picture myself writing a novel, traveling to Japan, owning a little house with a garden. These days, my biggest fantasy is financial security. Just enough to not worry. To breathe without a calculator in my head. I dream about having an emergency fund, going to the doctor without checking my bank balance first, saying yes to plans without scanning the menu online in advance. I don't talk about this much. Most of my friends are in the same boat, and there's an unspoken understanding between us. We trade budgeting apps, split Ubers, share Netflix logins. We laugh about our broke millennial lives like it's a badge of honor, but under the jokes is something heavier. We're not lazy. We're not irresponsible. We just came of age in a time where everything, rent, healthcare, education, costs more than it should, and wages don't keep up. It's like we were handed a game rigged from the start and told, if you fail, it's your fault. Sometimes I let myself imagine what life would be like if the system wasn't built this way. If rent control was real. If healthcare wasn't a luxury. If we didn't have to borrow thousands just to get an education. What would we be doing with all that freed up energy? What kinds of lives could we build if we weren't constantly surviving? I don't have a neat ending to this story. No breakthrough, no sudden windfall. Just today. Just showing up. Sometimes that's all I can do. And I try to believe that maybe that's enough for now. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I never thought financial pressure would feel like this, like a quiet weight that settles on your chest every morning, reminding you that no matter how hard you work, you're still just one missed paycheck away from unraveling. It's not the kind of stress that fades when you close your eyes at night. It's more like a dull, persistent ache that follows you through your days, creeping into every decision, every interaction, every fleeting hope. I'm 27 now, living in a small apartment on the edge of the city. When I was younger, I dreamed of so many things: traveling the world, starting a business, owning a home with a backyard where I could grow a few tomatoes and have friends over for barbecues. None of those things seem possible anymore, at least not anytime soon. Instead, my dreams have been carefully folded and tucked away, replaced by the ever-present question, how am I going to make rent this month? The economy's been a roller coaster, but for people like me, it's felt more like a cage with tightening bars. Expenses keep rising: rent, groceries, transportation, even the basics like electricity and water. Meanwhile, my income has barely budged. I work full-time at a retail job, and despite overtime hours and second jobs, I'm still scrambling. Every paycheck feels like a small victory, but the finish line keeps moving further away. I remember the first time I realized the system was stacked against me. I was 22, fresh out of college with a degree I thought would open doors. Instead, I found myself drowning in student loans and bills, looking for work that paid enough to cover rent and food, nothing more. The excitement of finishing school faded fast, replaced by the exhaustion of survival mode. I had to turn down invitations to events because I couldn't afford even the smallest extras. I had to delay seeing my family because the cost of the trip was just too much. Slowly, the things that once made life joyful became luxuries I couldn't afford. It's a strange feeling, this sense of being trapped in a system that doesn't seem to care. Like you're running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, and no matter how fast you move, you never get anywhere. I've had to make hard choices, skipping doctor's appointments to save money, choosing between fresh vegetables and cheaper processed foods, working late nights when my body screams for rest. There's a loneliness in that too, because these choices isolate you. When your friends talk about weekend getaways or dinners out, you smile and nod, but inside, there's this gnawing ache of exclusion. My emotional well-being has taken a beating. There are days when the anxiety feels suffocating, when the phone rings, and my heart races because I'm afraid it's a bill collector. Nights when I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I'll keep this up another month. Sometimes, I feel like I'm carrying a burden no one else sees, like I'm invisible beneath this heavy weight. But I also try to find small moments of light, a kind word from a coworker, a quiet walk in the park, the rare call with a friend who understands. Coping isn't easy, but I've learned a few things along the way. I've become meticulous with budgeting, tracking every dollar like a hawk. I picked up side gigs that drain my energy but help fill the gaps. I talk openly with close friends about money struggles, and that honesty has helped break down some of the shame I used to feel. I've started journaling, putting down my worries, hopes, and frustrations, as a way to untangle the mess in my mind. Still, the future feels uncertain. Sometimes I lie awake imagining a different life, one where I'm free from this constant financial strain. I picture saving up enough to move to a neighborhood with better opportunities, starting that business I've dreamed about, or even just taking a week off to breathe without the fear of unpaid bills looming over me. Those dreams keep me going, even if they seem distant. I know I'm not alone in this struggle. So many young adults I talk to share the same story, the balancing act between barely making ends meet and holding on to hope. It's a collective exhaustion, but also a quiet resilience. We keep pushing forward, even when the system feels designed to hold us back. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that financial pressure isn't just about numbers, it's about the emotional toll, the dreams deferred, and the everyday battles fought in silence. And while I don't have all the answers, I hold on to the belief that one day, maybe soon, things can be different. That the weight can lift, if only just enough for me to catch my breath and start reaching for those dreams again. I never thought I'd feel this way at 27, like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up, but I'm stuck in place, gasping for air. Every morning, I wake up with a weight on my chest, heavy and constant, the kind of pressure that doesn't quite let you breathe. It's the financial pressure, the silent, grinding ache that never really leaves me. And it's not just about money. It's about how money controls everything, how it shapes my decisions, my mood, my future. I feel trapped in a system that's rigged to keep me scrambling, chasing an ever-moving target that I'll probably never catch. I grew up thinking if I worked hard enough, I'd be okay. My parents didn't have much, but they always said, get a good education, find a stable job, and you'll be fine. I did what they said. I went to college, graduated with decent grades, and landed a job in my field. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills, or so I thought. Here's the thing, the bills don't stay the same. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, insurance, everything just climbs higher every year. My paycheck might go up a little, but nowhere near enough to keep up. It's like my money is a bucket with a hole in the bottom, no matter how much I pour in, it never fills. I spend half my day agonizing over what to cut next, which expense to delay, which plan to change just to save a few bucks. The rest of the day, I'm trying to push down the anxiety that bubbles up when I think about my bank balance. I live in a small apartment on the edge of the city, one of those places where you can hear everything your neighbors do, but it's all I can afford. I used to dream of a bigger space, a cozy home where I could invite friends over without feeling self-conscious. Now, I'm grateful to have a roof that doesn't leak, even if it means squeezing into a bedroom no bigger than a closet. Every morning is a mental checklist. Do I have enough money for groceries? Should I skip my morning coffee and brew something at home? Can I afford to fill up my car this week, or will I have to walk? When did my life become a constant negotiation between survival and sacrifice? Social life is a minefield too. I want to hang out with friends, celebrate birthdays, or just have a simple dinner out. But the truth is, I can't always say yes. There's a knot in my stomach every time I have to say, I can't afford that, or maybe next time. Sometimes they don't understand, and that makes me feel even more isolated. It's like I'm living in a different world from everyone else. They talk about trips and new gadgets, and I'm calculating if I have enough left this month to replace my worn-out shoes. I haven't been on a vacation in years. My friends post photos from beaches and festivals, and I smile and like their posts, but inside, I feel a pang of sadness. I used to dream of traveling, seeing the world, breaking out of this routine. Those dreams feel like distant stars now, beautiful but unreachable. I postponed saving for retirement, investing, or even building an emergency fund. When you barely make it month to month, thinking about the distant future almost feels like a luxury. The constant financial stress takes a toll on my mental health. There are days when the anxiety creeps in so hard I can't focus on work. I lie awake at night, my mind racing through worst-case scenarios. What if my car breaks down? What if I lose my job? What if an emergency hits? The fear feels suffocating. I'm trying to stay hopeful, but hope is tricky when your reality keeps hitting you in the face. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing something wrong, if I'm not disciplined enough, not resourceful enough, not smart enough. But then I look around and see so many people in the same boat. It's not just me. It's the economy, the skyrocketing costs, the stagnating wages. It's a system designed for the few, while the rest of us hustle just to stay afloat. To cope, I've had to get creative. I track every penny, use budgeting apps, clip coupons, cook almost all my meals from scratch, and avoid unnecessary spending like the plague. I try to find joy in the little things, a walk in the park, a book from the library, a homemade movie night. I've learned to ask for help sometimes, even if it's just talking to a close friend about how overwhelmed I feel. I hold on tightly to the belief that things can get better. I'm trying to upskill, take online courses to advance my career, and look for opportunities that pay better. But it's hard to keep pushing when every day feels like a battle. Sometimes I imagine what it would be like to be free from this cycle, to have a cushion of savings, to make choices based on what I want instead of what I can afford. I dream of buying a small house someday, maybe in a quieter town where the cost of living isn't crushing. I want to feel secure enough to start a family someday, to take care of my loved ones without this constant stress. I want to travel, explore, experience life beyond the paycheck-to-paycheck grind. But for now, those dreams are tucked away in a corner of my mind, waiting for a time when I'm not so consumed by the daily struggle. For now, I'm here, doing my best to keep going, to find small victories in the chaos, and to hold on to the hope that one day, this pressure will ease, and I'll finally catch my breath. It's exhausting, yes. It's lonely, often. But it's also a story I know many are living, too. And maybe sharing it helps, even just a little. Because feeling trapped is one thing, but feeling alone makes it worse. I'm here, fighting, hoping, surviving, one day at a time. Some days it feels like I'm just barely treading water, and some days I wonder if I'm actually sinking. I'm 27, working 2 part-time jobs, and no matter how hard I push myself, the bills pile up faster than I can pay them. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. No matter how much energy I put in, I never seem to get anywhere. I grew up hearing stories about the American dream, about owning a house, traveling, having a stable life. But for me, that dream feels like a mirage, shimmering just out of reach, always fading the moment I try to grab it. Instead, my reality is waking up every morning already exhausted from worry about money. It's an undercurrent running through every choice I make, every conversation I have. The rent alone is a beast. It's one of those tiny apartments in a rundown building, not exactly homey, but it's what I can afford right now. Some nights, I lie awake just listening to the creaks and the distant sirens, thinking about how much better my life could be if I didn't have to spend more than half my paycheck on a place that barely feels safe. And with inflation, that rent seems to inch up every year. Just when I think I'm getting a handle on it, bam, another increase. Groceries, utilities, phone bills, they all add up, and I'm constantly juggling which payment comes first. I've gotten pretty skilled at scanning discount apps and clipping coupons, but it's not just about saving a few dollars here or there. it's about stretching a paycheck that never seems to grow. My wages have barely moved in the last 3 years, but the cost of everything else has skyrocketed. Sometimes I get so frustrated I want to scream. Why does it feel like the system is designed to keep me trapped? Like I'm running this never-ending race where the finish line keeps moving farther away? My parents tell me to be patient, that things will get better, but I can't help feeling like I'm stuck in a loop. Working hard, staying careful with money, but still falling behind. It's exhausting emotionally. I try not to let it show, but there are nights when the weight of it all presses down so hard I can't breathe. I lie awake worrying about what happens if I get sick and can't work, or if my car breaks down and I can't get to either of my jobs. The stress creeps into everything, my relationships, my sleep, even my health. I used to dream about traveling, about finishing college and moving into a cozy apartment with a little balcony where I could grow plants. I thought I'd have time to explore hobbies, maybe take a class in something creative. Now, those dreams feel like luxury items I have to put on the shelf indefinitely. Every dollar I earn goes toward survival, not enjoyment. Sometimes I cope by telling myself this is temporary. That if I just keep working hard, keep pushing, I'll get through this phase. I try to find small moments of peace, a walk in the park, a cup of coffee with a friend, a book from the library, little pockets of joy that remind me there's more to life than stress and money. But even those moments are tinged with guilt. Should I really spend money on coffee when my bank account is nearly empty? I'm also learning to ask for help, which doesn't come easy. Pride makes it hard, but sometimes I have to lean on community resources or talk honestly with friends about what I'm going through. It's comforting to realize I'm not alone, even though it still feels like I'm fighting an uphill battle. Looking ahead, I want to believe there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I dream about stability, having enough saved for emergencies, a job with benefits, the ability to take a weekend off without anxiety. I want to believe that someday I'll stop feeling like I'm just barely keeping my head above water. But for now, it's about taking it one day at a time, holding on to hope even when it feels fragile. I remind myself that my worth isn't measured by my bank account, and that this struggle doesn't define me. I'm more than my financial stress, more than my paycheck or my rent. Someday, I hope to look back on this time and see it as the moment I found strength I didn't know I had. Until then, I'll keep moving forward, even if it's just one small step at a time. Because giving up isn't an option, not when hope, however faint, still burns inside me. I wake up most mornings with a tightness in my chest that doesn't quite go away. It's not the usual groggy kind of tired, it's heavier, like an invisible weight pressing down on my ribs, reminding me that the month has just started and the bills are already whispering in the back of my mind. I'm 27, living in a city that never feels cheap, and every day feels like I'm running just to stay in the same place. I remember when I first moved out of my parents' house, full of hope and energy. I had this idea that with a steady job, I'd build something for myself. Maybe a small apartment of my own, a weekend trip now and then, dinners out with friends without having to count every penny. But reality hit harder than I imagined. The rent is absurd, food prices climb every week, and then there's the car, utilities, phone bills, insurance, and that damn student loan. Every paycheck feels like a countdown. I get paid, I breathe for a few days, then it's like the money slips through my fingers before I even notice. The cost of living is rising faster than I can earn, and it's exhausting. I see the numbers on my bank app go down, and I try not to think too much about what's next. Sometimes I don't even know how I'll cover groceries for the week until the last moment. It's not just the money, it's what the money represents. It feels like I'm trapped in a loop, caught in a system designed to keep me chasing my tail. Every time I think about saving, something comes up, a leak in the apartment, a medical bill, or an unexpected work expense. I tell myself to be patient, that eventually I'll catch up, but the truth is I'm scared. What if I never do? What if this cycle never breaks? The pressure leaks into every part of my life. Social gatherings, which used to be fun, now feel like minefields. Friends suggest dinners or trips, and I smile but decline, feeling the sting of missing out. Sometimes I mask it with jokes or change the subject, but inside I'm aching for connection, yet too ashamed to say I can't afford it. It's lonely. My emotional well-being takes a hit. The anxiety is almost constant, a low hum in the background. Some nights, I lie awake, my mind racing with what ifs. What if I lose my job? What if the rent goes up again? What if I get sick? It's hard to plan for the future when the present feels so unstable. I've become hyper-aware of every dollar I spend, and that kind of vigilance is exhausting. To cope, I've developed small rituals. I track my expenses obsessively on a spreadsheet, finding some comfort in controlling what I can. I cook at home, often the same meals, because variety feels like a luxury I can't afford. I've started walking more, not just to save on transport but because it clears my head, even if the sidewalks sometimes remind me how far I am from where I want to be. I also try to remind myself why I keep going. I had dreams once, big ones. I wanted to travel, maybe live abroad for a while, write a novel, build a career that felt meaningful, not just a paycheck. Those dreams feel distant now, postponed indefinitely, like I'm putting life on hold until I make it. It's a hollow place to be, knowing you're capable of so much more but feeling trapped by circumstances beyond your control. Sometimes, I let myself imagine a different future, a life where I don't have to constantly budget every cent, where I can save without fear, where the pressure isn't this overwhelming. It helps keep me moving forward, even if it feels like a flicker in the dark. But I also wrestle with guilt. I feel guilty for not having more, for not being able to give my family the help they deserve, for turning down plans, for feeling tired all the time. Society tells you that if you work hard enough, you'll succeed, but what if hard work isn't enough? What if the system is rigged in a way that no matter how hard you try, you keep losing ground? Some days, I find hope in the small victories. A bill paid on time, a week without overdrawing my account, a conversation with a friend who understands. Those moments remind me I'm not alone, that other people feel this squeeze too. We're all trying to navigate a world where expenses grow like wildfire while incomes barely budge. I don't have all the answers. I don't know if this story will have a happy ending or what that would even look like. But for now, I keep waking up with that weight in my chest and choosing to breathe through it. Choosing to believe that maybe, one day, this pressure will ease, and I'll look back and see how much strength it took to keep going. Until then, I live one day at a time, balancing hope with reality, vulnerability with resilience, and dreams with the hard facts of today. I never thought I'd get to this point, the point where every morning feels like stepping into a storm I can't escape. It's this relentless pressure, this gnawing weight that sits on my chest from the moment I wake up until I finally fall asleep, drained and defeated. I'm 27, trying to make it through a world that's moving too fast and asking for more money than I seem capable of earning. The cost of everything keeps climbing, but my paycheck stays stubbornly the same. Or worse, sometimes I feel like it shrinks after taxes, bills, and that growing pile of unexpected expenses. I work a full-time job that pays decently compared to some of my friends, but it's nowhere near enough to keep me comfortable. Rent eats up more than half of what I bring home, and utilities, groceries, transportation, they all add up in ways that never stop surprising me. When the car breaks down or the phone needs replacing, I'm suddenly scrambling to cover the cost, shifting money around like a juggler afraid of dropping a ball. I'm caught in this cycle where I'm always just one small crisis away from falling behind, and that makes every day feel fragile. Some mornings, I wake up and stare at the ceiling, my mind spinning through every bill that's due that week. I count pennies in my head, trying to figure out how I'm going to get through without dipping into the emergency fund that's already barely hanging on. I have a budget, a strict one, but it feels like a losing game when prices rise so fast I have to keep adjusting it, trimming things here and there until there's almost nothing left to cut. Social media doesn't help. Everyone seems to be living these perfect lives, taking weekend trips, buying new gadgets, dining out. I scroll through pictures of friends at concerts or fancy dinners, feeling a pinch of envy mixed with shame. I want to celebrate their happiness, but it's hard when I'm stuck deciding whether to eat out or buy groceries, or when the idea of a night out feels like an impossible luxury. I don't complain much, because I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses or being ungrateful for what I do have, but some days it just feels so damn lonely. It's not just the money itself, it's how the financial pressure changes everything. It's in the constant anxiety, the tightness in my chest, the way I sometimes can't sleep because my mind is racing through worst-case scenarios. Will I lose my apartment? What if I get sick and can't work? Will I ever be able to save enough to move somewhere better, or to even just take a vacation without worrying about the cost? I feel trapped, like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up, and no matter how fast I run, I'm stuck in the same place. Sometimes I think about what life would have been like if I'd made different choices. If I had gone to college longer or chosen a different career path, something with better pay or more stability. But those thoughts only hit harder when I remind myself that tuition, student loans, and living expenses would have been even bigger mountains to climb. It feels like this system was built to keep people like me locked in, working hard but never quite catching up. I've had to postpone so many dreams. The idea of buying a home? That's on hold indefinitely. Even small things like saving for new clothes or a gym membership feel irresponsible when rent and bills come first. I used to want to travel, to see new places, to have experiences that would broaden my horizons and bring joy. Now I find myself cutting back on anything that isn't absolutely necessary, no trips, no concerts, no splurges. I've had to say no to invitations because the cost of getting there or spending money once out is just too much. But I'm not giving up. I've learned to cope in little ways that keep me afloat. Cooking meals at home instead of eating out, walking instead of taking the bus, scouring for deals and second-hand items. Sometimes, I stay up late researching side gigs or ways to earn a little extra money. I've joined online communities where people talk openly about their financial struggles, and that makes me feel less alone. It's a reminder that this isn't just my problem, it's a reality for so many of us trying to get by in an economy that seems to demand more than we have. Still, the emotional toll is hard to shake. There are moments when I feel like I'm failing, like I'm not doing enough or that I'm somehow less because I can't make it in this system. I worry about the future, about what my life will look like in 5 or 10 years if nothing changes. Will I still be living paycheck to paycheck? Will I ever be able to afford something stable and secure? These fears keep me awake at night and sometimes make it hard to get out of bed in the morning. But beneath the exhaustion and frustration, there's a flicker of hope. I still dream of a day when I can breathe easier, when money isn't the first thing I think about every day. I want to build a life where I'm not just surviving but thriving, where I can afford small joys and plan for the future without fear. I don't know when or how that will happen, but I hold on to the belief that it's possible. For now, I keep moving forward, one day at a time, trying to be kind to myself even when the system isn't. It's hard, and sometimes it feels unfair, but this is my story, a story of quiet struggle, resilience, and the hope that better days are still ahead. It's like waking up every day inside a small, shrinking box. The walls press in a little more each morning, not physically, but in every choice I make. The pressure feels constant, a weight that doesn't lift, no matter how hard I try. I'm 27 now, and for as long as I can remember, money has been this invisible leash, tightening around my neck, controlling where I can go, what I can say yes to, and what I have to swallow in silence. When I was a kid, I thought adulthood was supposed to feel like freedom. You get a job, you make your own money, and you finally decide how to live your life. But reality is nothing like that. It's more like a relentless game of catch-up, every month, every week, every day. The bills come first, always first. Rent eats up half my paycheck before I even see it. Utilities, groceries, phone, insurance, they pile up so fast I can almost hear them stacking in a tower I'm trying desperately not to topple. The economic environment we live in isn't just hard, it feels designed to keep people like me in place. Inflation, rent hikes, rising grocery prices, expenses are growing faster than any paycheck raise I get, or sometimes, any raise at all. And raises come slower now, if at all, because companies don't want to commit to anything permanent when the economy feels so shaky. I watch headlines about booming markets and record profits from big corporations, and I wonder how that reality is so separate from mine. It's like the system is rigged to reward the few and keep the rest scrambling. Every morning, I wake up and think, what can I skip this month? Can I cut back on groceries? Should I pause my gym membership? Maybe skip going out with friends again? These decisions don't feel like choices, they feel like survival tactics. Even something as simple as buying a coffee feels like a splurge. The luxury of enjoying small pleasures is shrinking, swallowed whole by the necessity of covering essentials. It's exhausting, mentally and emotionally. The constant worry about money gnaws at me, like a quiet, persistent ache I can't ignore. Sometimes I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, running through all the what-ifs. What if I get sick and can't work? What if my car breaks down? What if I lose my job? These aren't irrational fears, they're real possibilities that would send me spiraling. And yet, I don't have much cushion to fall back on, just a few $100s saved, painstakingly chipped away month after month. This stress spills into everything. It's hard to feel optimistic about the future when every day feels like just getting by. I want to believe I'll be able to save enough to move out of this tiny, overpriced apartment, maybe buy a car that won't break down every few months. I dream of traveling, of seeing the world beyond the city skyline that feels like a cage. I want to imagine buying a home someday, starting a family if I choose. But these dreams feel distant, almost like fantasies, because the immediate reality is so harsh. The hardest part is the loneliness that comes with it. Friends talk about weekend trips, new gadgets, career moves that require more investment, time, money, energy. I want to be a part of those conversations, but I feel like I'm constantly apologizing for what I can't afford. I say no a lot, and it's isolating. I try to hide it, but the exhaustion seeps through. Sometimes I feel embarrassed, like I've failed some invisible test of adulthood because I can't keep up. I cope in small ways, finding joy in moments that don't cost anything, like evening walks, borrowing books from the library, or cooking meals at home instead of ordering takeout. I'm learning to be resourceful, to stretch every dollar and find value in simplicity. But there's a quiet grief in all this, a mourning for the life I thought I'd have by now. Financial pressure has also changed how I see myself. It's made me feel less capable, less worthy. There's a shame attached to not having enough that's hard to shake. I know logically that my worth isn't tied to my bank balance, but emotionally, it's tough to separate. I see friends and family moving forward, buying homes, saving for retirement, investing in their passions, and I feel stuck. It's like I'm running a race where the finish line keeps moving further away. Still, I hold on to hope. I remind myself that this isn't forever. Maybe if I keep pushing, if I find better opportunities, if the economy stabilizes, I can break out of this cycle. I want to believe that someday, I'll look back on these struggles as a chapter that made me stronger, more resilient. I want to believe that the sacrifices and the postponements are temporary, that the dreams I'm shelving now will one day be within reach. But for now, it's a balancing act on a tightrope stretched thin between survival and hope. Every decision is a calculation. Every choice feels weighted. And every night, before I close my eyes, I whisper a small prayer, that tomorrow's climb will be a little less steep. I never thought I'd find myself here, stuck in this endless loop where the numbers just don't add up. It's not like I'm careless with money or anything. I keep a spreadsheet. I've cut back wherever I can, canceled streaming services, stopped eating out, even downgraded my phone plan. But the bills keep climbing, faster than I can keep up with. Rent is the worst, it's like every year it climbs higher and higher, as if the landlord expects me to suddenly start making more just by magic. But the paycheck? It barely moves. Sometimes it feels like I'm treading water, with these invisible weights pulling me down deeper each day. I'm 26 now. When I graduated college, I was so sure I'd be able to build a life. I had a decent job lined up, plans for an apartment with roommates, even dreams of travel and maybe buying a car. But somewhere along the way, all those things started feeling like distant, almost impossible luxuries. Instead, I'm scrambling to cover rent, utilities, groceries, and the occasional car repair that sends me spiraling into worry for weeks. The economic environment, the rising prices, stagnant wages, constant uncertainty, it's like a shadow that stretches over every choice I make. Every morning I wake up already exhausted. Not physically, though sometimes that too, but mentally drained from thinking about money. How am I going to pay for the oil change? Will I have enough for groceries this week? Should I accept that extra shift even though I'm burned out? It's a constant mental buzz, a low-level panic that never quite fades. There's a pressure that feels like it's squeezing my chest, making it hard to breathe. Some days I'm so overwhelmed I just want to hide under my covers and pretend the world isn't demanding so much. It's hard to explain this feeling to people who haven't been through it. I try not to complain too much because I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses or asking for pity. But the truth is, this kind of financial pressure weighs on your soul. It chips away at your confidence, your motivation, your sense of self-worth. When you know you're working hard but still falling behind, it makes you question if you're doing something wrong, or if the system itself is rigged against you. The system does feel rigged. It's like being stuck in a game where the rules keep changing, and every time you figure out a way to get ahead, something else pulls you back. Inflation makes everything more expensive: groceries, gas, rent, and yet my income barely keeps pace. I hear politicians talking about economic recovery and growth, but it feels like that's happening somewhere else, not in my neighborhood or in my bank account. It's like they're looking at statistics and graphs, but not at real people trying to survive day to day. Sometimes I envy people who grew up with more financial security. They seem to have the freedom to take risks, go back to school, start a business, or even just take a vacation. Those things feel like luxuries when you're living paycheck to paycheck. For me, the dream is often just making it through the month without overdrawing my account or missing a bill. I have dreams too, but they've been postponed indefinitely. I wanted to travel, to see the world, to maybe own a home someday. Now I'm just focused on not falling behind. Coping with this pressure isn't easy. I try to remind myself that I'm not alone, but sometimes it feels like everyone else is doing better somehow. Social media doesn't help, seeing friends post about new jobs, apartments, vacations, while I'm stressing about whether to buy generic groceries or skip a meal. I've had to learn to manage my emotions, to find small moments of joy where I can, like a walk in the park, or calling a friend who understands. Therapy helps too, but it's another expense I sometimes have to skip. I also try to find hope in the small things. I'm building skills at work, hoping to earn a promotion someday, or maybe find a better paying job. I'm saving a little bit here and there, even if it's just $10 a week, because I know every bit counts. I remind myself that this is a phase, not permanent, though sometimes it feels like it might be. I believe that things can change, even if it takes longer than I wanted. But I won't pretend it's easy. The feeling of being trapped in a system where expenses grow faster than income is like being stuck in quicksand. You struggle to move, but every effort just sinks you deeper. It's exhausting. It's demoralizing. But despite all that, I keep going. Because what other choice is there? I still hold on to hope that someday, maybe soon, I'll be able to breathe easier, to live a little freer, to finally chase those postponed dreams. Until then, I'll keep trying, one day at a time. Sometimes I feel like I'm drowning in numbers, bills, prices, interest rates, all closing in on me like waves, pushing and pulling but never letting me breathe easy. It's this constant pressure, this invisible weight that sits on my chest every single day. I'm 27, working a steady job that pays just enough to keep the lights on and food on the table, but never enough to really live. Not like I imagined when I was younger. Growing up, I had dreams. Big ones. I pictured myself traveling the world, maybe starting my own business, or just having the freedom to say yes to things without panicking over the cost. But now, every decision feels like a balancing act on a tightrope that's fraying at the edges. The rent goes up, groceries are more expensive, gas prices spike, and my paycheck, well, it stays stubbornly the same. Or worse, it feels like it's shrinking when I do the math. I remember when I first realized how deep this trap was. It was during a weekend grocery run. I was trying to buy ingredients for something simple, pasta, some veggies, maybe chicken. The total came up to more than I expected, and I stood there frozen, my heart racing, feeling my face flush with shame. I had to take some items out, put them back on the shelf, and adjust my list again. Over and over. I felt like I was failing at something so basic. Food. It's supposed to be easy, right? But in this economy, it's a constant negotiation. Every month, the bills arrive like clockwork, each one a reminder that I'm just treading water. Utilities, phone, internet, rent, credit card minimum payments, they stack up and leave me scrambling to cover the essentials. Sometimes I have to choose between a late payment fee or skipping something else. And the anxiety that follows is like a low hum in the background of my life, never fully going away. It's exhausting. Work used to be a refuge, a place where I felt a sense of accomplishment. But lately, it's just another reminder of how little my effort translates into real progress. Overtime is scarce, and even when I get it, the extra money gets swallowed up by the rising cost of everything else. The thought of asking for a raise feels impossible. Who am I to demand more when so many people are struggling? Besides, it seems like companies expect us to be grateful just to have a job. Social life has taken a hit too. Hanging out with friends means splitting checks carefully or suggesting coffee at home instead of going out. Birthdays, holidays, or just casual plans often get postponed or declined because there's always something that costs money I can't spare. It's isolating in a way that's hard to explain, like being on the outside of a fun conversation, watching but not fully participating. There are days when the weight of it all is so heavy I just want to disappear from the pressures of this world, even if only for a moment. I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'll ever get ahead or if I'm just stuck in this endless loop. The system feels designed to keep people like me trapped, expenses growing faster than income, bills that multiply, opportunities that seem to slip away before you can grab them. I cope in small ways. Sometimes I binge-watch old shows to escape reality. Other times I take long walks, trying to clear my head and remind myself there's more to life than money. I've started journaling, pouring out these feelings because holding them in only makes them heavier. And I try to celebrate small wins, like managing to save $5 one month or negotiating a better deal on my phone plan. These moments feel like tiny victories in a war that's far from over. But the dreams? They're still there, even if they're buried under layers of pragmatism. I dream of owning a small place where I don't have to worry about rent hikes or landlords. I dream of a day when I can travel without stressing about currency exchange rates or budget accommodations. I dream of waking up and feeling financially free, not constantly anxious. But those dreams feel distant, fragile, and sometimes, painfully out of reach. Still, I hold on to hope. Maybe it's naive, or maybe it's what keeps me going. I remind myself that this moment, as tough as it is, doesn't have to define the rest of my life. That with patience, persistence, and maybe a bit of luck, things can change. But until then, I'll keep navigating this maze, making hard choices, facing hard truths, and trying to find meaning beyond the numbers. Because despite everything, I'm still here. Still trying. Still hoping. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.